All right, guys, welcome to another video of Onshape Tutorials. This video is going to be just simply to teach you guys about geometric constraints and how to use them in your sketches. This video you are going to be using to complete the Google form that is part of this assignment. And that's part A. Part B is going to be you actually completing a sketch and screenshotting that. So for this part A, just follow along with the video, complete your assignment, your Google form as we go through, or you can just do it once we're done and use the video to help answer any questions you may have about that assignment. All right, so let's get started. So these are going to be sketching tools. So I'm going to just start a sketch. I'm going to do it on the front plane, and I'm going to toggle over to the front plane. Okay. In the previous assignment, I showed you guys like line, rectangle, circles, and we haven't really messed with arcs too much. I can show you quickly in this video, like how to draw one, maybe even a polygon. But there will be other videos and assignments associated with like more complex sketching. This one's really just to explain to you guys what geometric constraints are. So for geometric constraints, this we used in the previous videos is our dimensional constraint. This specifies the length of an entity or dimension of an entity. Okay, that's going to be how you dimensionally constrain things. We already know how to do that. All these over here are our geometric constraints. Okay, you can only see them because we're in a sketch mode. It's important to make note of that as well. So since we're in a sketch mode, I see these constraints. I can't really use them because I don't have any geometry out here. So I'm going to just go through each one, show a couple examples, one or two examples of how to use each one, and then move on to the next. So you can complete your Google form as well as understand what they could be used for. So this first one we're going to use is going to be this coincident constraint. If you hover over it, it'll say make two or more sketch entities share the same location in a sketch. So you might be wondering like, what does that mean? Well, let's go ahead and show how you can use that. I'm going to draw just a line real quick. Okay, and then I'll just draw another line. All right. Okay, say for example, I want these endpoints to, be the same. All right, I can click this and then you'll notice here it highlights and then it's asking like, or it gives you the ability to select specific points. Okay, so once I selected those two, it snapped up and now though that specific point is now coincident to the other one that we grabbed. Okay, so it's kind of and then here, so it's like, okay, well that's cool. How can that really be used? If we move this line, this one will always move too because this point is now being read. Like it has to be the same as that. Okay, so or if we move this line, it's not going to go anywhere. Let me go ahead and undo that and I'll show you guys another example. So if we select it again, we can do this endpoint, snap it to that one. It'll go on that side over there and kind of do the same. Okay. We can also like draw a rectangle. We can draw a line and we can apply it to like the points on a rectangle. Okay. Maybe we want to snap that over here. Okay. And now those endpoints are the same. I just kind of have to drag that. So sometimes it does funky things and you kind of have to play with it, but that's essentially how you use that tool. Okay. And there's other applications as we get more into the intricacies of Onshape sketching. but that's just a watered down version of what that one does. Essentially, it is used commonly on endpoints to connect geometry. And before I move on, I'm right clicking and just dragging, selecting everything, and I'm just going to delete it because now I'm going to move on to the next one, this concentric geometric constraint. So if we hover and read it, it says make any endpoint coincident with the center of an arc or circle. So you're not going to be able to use this tool unless you have an arc or a circle drawn, okay? The best way to just show you quickly how this one's used is to draw two circles. You know, maybe they're different diameters. I'm not worried about dimensions right now because we're just showing you guys how to use this. And say I want these circles to line up, okay? I can click concentric. I can even just click on the circles and they'll line up. I could click on the center points, okay? Another thing too is like if I was to draw another circle and then run it, I can drop that circle in there too. And then in addition, if I move these, you know, I'm clicking and dragging on that geometry, the center point of those circles is not going to move. Okay, so now they're all concentric. You can also, if I draw a 3-point arc, you know, I draw it like way up here, and you can see here that center point is kind of following me down to the left of like the actual arc. Okay, and say I place that arc, I can also make this arc concentric to this whole thing. And then, you know, if I make that arc longer or move it, see how this is all like now it's like moving together because it's all concentric. So that one specifically has to be used, you know, with circles and arcs to line them up, basically. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Click, highlight, leading. This next one is parallel. So you might be able to guess how that's used. Okay. Let's draw two lines that are not parallel. I'll draw that one and that one. So you drew a little line there. And I can click parallel, click, click. Now those lines are parallel. And if I change, you know, if I click and drag and move them, they will always stay parallel. Okay. Yeah. You can also do this, like if we draw a rectangle and then if we draw like a line over here, you can do it like with specific entities. Like this specific edge, I want to be parallel to that line. Okay. And now it is. Okay. So if I like change anything about this line, it's not going, it's now constrained to be parallel with that edge. Okay. If I was, which I'm going to use tool here, that is something I don't know how to use yet. If I was to rotate this rectangle, okay, this line should have rotated. There we go. So that can be helpful as well. Okay, this one, tangent, as you can see here, if we hover over it, it says make a tangent relation between two sketch entities or between a sketch entity and a plane. In order for something to be tangent, like there has to be a circle or arc associated with it. And so, for example, I'll just draw a circle real quick and then a line, which is draw it out here. That already actually looks kind of like it could be tangent, but okay. And then if I run that tool, click on that line and that circle, it's going to snap it to be like if I was to drag this, okay, and it starts to intersect, it's going to intersect in a tangent way. Extend that line. I can also throw a dimension on the circle, say I actually want that to be 1.5, and that line will adjust as well, okay? You can also do it with other types of entities. So like I can say this circle, to that edge. And this is like kind of boring because it's just a right angle. So you can't really, but they will move and drag, and correspond to keeping this circle tangent to that edge of that rectangle. Okay. So that's tangent. Horizontal is our next one. Basically, this one just takes a line or part of like a rectangle or polygon or whatever. Let's show a polygon just for fun. Shake it up, Maybe you draw this. Oh, let's do a hexagon. There we go. Maybe you draw this and you're like, dang, I really need one of these edges to be like flat and horizontal. Well, you can use this guy, click horizontal, and click on a specific edge that you want, and it'll snap it. And now, no matter what you do and how you change it, that thing or that specific edge will stay horizontal. You can also do it with lines, if you accidentally draw a certain way, go ahead and click horizontal. The next one is vertical. So I bet you can guess what vertical does. Let's just go ahead and draw a line here, click vertical, boom, does the opposite thing, but similar. Instead of horizontal, it changes things to be vertical. So, if you draw like another polygon, maybe I do that, and I actually want this one to be a triangle. But I really need that edge to be vertical. Just go ahead and use that tool to help you out. So horizontal and vertical, those ones are pretty straightforward. Okay. Perpendicular, you also can probably guess, making lines and entities perpendicular to one another. Maybe you've got this line and you accidentally draw, a line coming off of it. That's not a right angle. So you want to click this tool and say, like, I want this to be perpendicular to that. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Make two lines at a right angle. Okay, and then that way, it doesn't go anywhere. Equals is going to be making two lines equal in length or arcs equal in radii. So I'll show both. On this one, for example, like if that looked like that, and I wanted these lines to be of equal length, I could use this tool, click this one and then that one, and they would become equals. All right. If I had, two arcs, and I wanted them to be the same length for whatever reason, I could click that and do that as well. So that's actually going to make the radii, the radius equal. So not necessarily the length. Let's double check that. Yeah, equal in radii. So that's important to remember. It's actually not the arc length on that one. Okay. It's basically defining, like, if we were to dimension this, those radiuses would be the same. And so I guess if I was to adjust this, make it 2, whatever, that one would turn into 2. So, it's probably going to be more applicable regarding like lines, but we will see as we, continue in our Onshape journey. The next one, midpoint. Okay, that one's gonna be like, if we have a line or two, we'll do maybe I want this endpoint to snap to the midpoint of this. Okay, so I can click on that one and there. And then no matter what, however this changes, all right, I can still rotate this, so you can see maybe some application there. However, the end is not going to come off of that midpoint. of that line that I clicked. You know, and I could redo this and say I wanted this one to be in the middle of that. I would just pick that midpoint and click on that line. So it's going to guess, you know, depending on what you click and how you click it, how you want that to happen. Say you're like, I want this snap to the midpoint, but I want these lines to be perpendicular. You could use perpendicular tool. You could also say, hey, I want this line to be vertical, and because that's going to stay at the midpoint and it's already horizontal, it will become perpendicular. You know, so now you can kind of see how these things can, you know, feed into one another. Now you can really constrain your sketches. So let's see here. We've got normal and Pierce. We're gonna leave those alone for now. We'll talk about symmetric and fixed as the last two, and then I'll wrap up this video. Symmetric is a little like trickier. Makes two entities the same type, symmetric relative to a line, plane, or linear edge. So you actually have to have like a reference. So for example, I'll make like a mirror line, and then I will do, let's do the rectangle here, sure. And then let's go ahead and run it. So symmetric, we're gonna click maybe this edge, that, and that edge. You're gonna have to click like 3 things, okay? And then, so that like made it mirror that way. If I am to move this, see how those specific lines I clicked are like moving at the same distance relative to that center line. Say I'm like, okay, I actually wanted this to be like at an angle. You know, this one is gonna be the application for this one's gonna be, I would consider a bit more limited for what we do in our class, but you can play around with that, but you can see also kind of like you need 3 entities, you need a mirror line, and they're gonna move like relative to one another depending on what you selected and to adjust it. You could also probably, you know, like for example, I can mirror those edges as well. And so now this whole thing's gonna move. So you can do like constraints within constraints, especially if it's like specific edges that you want. Like maybe you want those to be mirrored as well. And so now if we move it like this, not only are those gonna move, those are gonna move, and those are gonna move. That way, just like as you adjust things, really the whole point of these is to make your life easier as your sketches get more complicated. So like if you decide later on, depending on what you're doing, this needs to be exactly 2 inches because you've measured a certain piece, but you also, you know, you want that to all adjust dynamically, that's when this comes into play, okay? Fixing an object, this is the last one I'll talk about, is basically locking a sketch entity onto the sketch plane so it doesn't move at all. To some degree, you kind of want to avoid this, but it also can be nice in some ways. So like if we click that and then click that edge, you'll notice that edge turns black, and also that edge turns black. Like it is fully constrained. Okay, I cannot click and move that thing. I can still click and move these, and I can click and move these, but since I locked that edge, and you can see here, if I hover over it too, you can see all the constraints on it. It is now fixed. Like that thing is not going anywhere, okay? I can even move this, but that specific edge is not moving. So, you know, if you really wanted to, you could fix like everything. You know, and then you can see it's all going to start turning black. And if things like certain things you want to fix, as you can see, like now I can only drag this one. You also don't have to do that. You can also fix it with a dimension. And so like, you know, now that, you know, if we add a dimension here, make it 5. All right. you know, like that's going to snap to 0.5 and it'll stay at 0.5. So the fix tool, you know, use it when you need, but you may not need to, but it is also good to know that it exists and is there. Okay, that's all I've got for you guys. Go ahead and complete that questionnaire and then move on to part two where you actually you replicate the fully constrained sketch in the video that I gave you guys. Okay, thanks. Have fun.